Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. Let's continue with the test paper series, and today I'm going to do a 58 marks test paper only on the chapter called The Enemy. The explanation video has already been done, and I do hope you've already seen it. It's a very long story, and it has been done in two parts, right? It is there in the playlist. Now, in this one, I'm going to talk about the question and answers, how to do the MCQs, how to do the long answer, the 2 mark, the 3 mark questions. And I've also got some special questions at the end of this video. So let's get started without wasting any time. Sorry. The MCQs first. Dr. Sadau's father sending him to America for studies primarily reflects what? A fascination with Western lifestyle, a belief in Japan's destiny through education, a desire to make Sadao a politician, or an attempt to escape the war. The correct answer is B, a belief in Japan's destiny through education. Hannah's hesitation to wash the prisoner reveals her arrogance as a Japanese woman, her internal struggle between humanity and patriotism, her complete obedience to her husband, or her ignorance of American culture. The correct answer is 2B. The third question, the best thing we could do would be to put him back into the sea. This line reveals what? Sadao's scientific detachment, Hannah's practicality and fear, both Sadao's and Hannah's moral confusion, or their determination to protect Japan's borders. If you see the detailed explanation that I have done, you will get an idea about what all was going in the mind of the couple, right? What were the different dilemmas that they were dealing with? You need to be very well aware, because please remember, close to 50% of your question paper is going to be competency based, 40 to 50%. So you need to be very well versed with understanding each and every poem, every story, every essay. That's what you're going to be tested on. You are not going to get lollipop easy questions. Wo zamana gaya. Okay, the correct answer for this will be 3C. Sadao hesitated to send the American away immediately because he wanted to use him for medical experiments. Is there any proof to that effect? He felt compassion overpowering duty. The general had ordered him to keep the man, or the sea was too rough for escape of the soldier. The correct answer is 4th B. The servant's decision to leave the house primarily symbolizes what? Economic protest, social hierarchy in Japan, the conflict between nationalism and morality, rebellion against modern education. The correct answer is 5th C. Which of the following reflects the general's hypocrisy best? His decision to reward Sadao, his preference for German ruthlessness and American sentimentality, his concern for Sadao's safety over national duty, his delayed operation. The correct answer is 6th C. The options are not very clear in this one. What does the prisoner's scar under the ear symbolize thematically? The brutality of war and dehumanization, his personal guilt, his past as a traitor, his resistance to Japanese torture, the brutality of war and dehumanization. Sadao's final act of helping the prisoners escape signifies what? Rebellion against authority, triumph of conscience over nationalism, betrayal of his country, or pity born of weakness. The correct answer is B. You would get confused between A and B, but the correct answer is 8B. Which word best captures Hannah's state during the operation? Stoic, detached, repulsed, yet dutiful, emotionally cold. Now you see, now these are the kind of options that could confuse you, which is why I believe you need to test yourself with quality questions and answers. And when you see my 2 mark and 3 mark questions and answers, you will realize what I'm saying. The correct answer here is 9th C. The general's dependence on Sadao reflects blind patriotism, moral weakness, selfish pragmatism, or sincere friendship. The correct answer is selfish pragmatism. He's being very thoughtful about what he will get from Sadao. I wonder why I could not kill him. This closing reflection reveals Sadao's guilt, the futility of hatred, his scientific curiosity, his confusion between reason and uh, emotion. The correct answer here would be the futility of hatred. The fog and mist described at the story's beginning serve as natural imagery, symbols of moral obscurity, weather setting. Is it very literal, just the weather setting? Or are they some kind of a foreboding sign? Are they signs of some kind of danger? So they are symbols in the story of moral obscurity. Obscurity means some kind of confusion, right? Where things are not very clear in the mind. The phrase enemy in the title is ironic. This is an important question as it questions the label of enemy when humanity is involved. It only refers to the general. It has no relevance to Sadao, or the American was never really injured. The correct answer is A. 14th. Sadao's education in America mainly creates what? Alienation from Japanese tradition, a balance between modernity and nationalism, contempt for Western ideals, and dependency on foreign systems. Now you see in this, you can get confused between A, B, and C, right? You will realize that it's the thing, but I think of the lot, A is what will be the thing. Though he had some contempt, but it was more personal vis-a-vis the landlord, right? And B, not so much. I think A, it kind of took him away from Japanese tradition. Hannah's decision to personally nurse the soldier indicates what? Transformation through empathy, defiance against Sadao? No. Acceptance of defeat? No. Interest in medicine? Not really. The correct answer would be 15th A. The servant's superstition that the sea will take revenge symbolizes folklore and fate, irrational patriotism clashing with morality, fear of foreign powers, or distrust in Sadao's skill. The correct answer will be 16th B. When Sadao says, I must get rid of this man, it reveals what? Exhaustion of moral conflict, hatred re-emerging, guilt for saving him, or fear of exposure. The correct answer is exhaustion of moral conflict. Which literary techniques dominates the story's tone? Important question. Irony, sarcasm, allegory, or is it a farce? The correct answer would be irony more, though I mean, none of them are very strong, but the whole irony of the American coming and landing at the Japanese doctor's doorstep. The prisoner's words, if all the Japs were like you, convey blind optimism, recognition of shared humanity despite war, flattery for survival, or regret for being caught. The correct answer is 19th B. By the end of the story, what emotion dominates Sadao's consciousness? Triumph, fear, relief mixed with introspection, or patriotism? The correct answer would be 20th C. Let's now look at the short answer questions for 2 marks each answer in about 40 words. Okay, Sadao and Hannah have a moral compass. Now, moral compass is an important phrase which you should be using in your answers, which urges them to save the life of the American prisoner. Why is it necessary that all of us need to have this moral compass? So you see, though it refers to a particular aspect of the story, you're also being asked some kind of an opinion. The moral compass is essential. So this is how you write your answers in a formal kind of a tone. The moral compass is essential because it guides us on being compassionate even to our enemies, so that we act in a way that is ethical and fair. A person's life and his well-being, irrespective of his nationality, which country he belongs to, religion, or caste, is more important than the artificial divisions on the basis of his birth. I mean, he was born in America, therefore he was an American soldier, but that gives us no reason to somehow kind of, dislike him or do anything against him. Okay. Comment on the use of blood as a symbol in the story. Very important question. Blood is one of the important symbols used in the stories. It creates a bond between two persons who are divided by their nationalities. Please keep highlighting the differences between them so that it gives the examiner an idea that this student has understood the themes of the story well and challenges the notions of hatred and prejudice created by enemy countries, right? See, if I'm telling you how to write a formal, well-phrased answer, my idea is not to make you pass the examination. My idea is not to feel happy with a 60% marks in English. My idea is to help you score in the high 90s, which is why if you see the quality of my answers, they will be good quality answers, which if you are able to prepare, take screenshots, prepare, keep it in mind, it will help you score better marks in the examination. Apart from the soldier, Tom's blood on the doctor's hands, the use of the fowl's blood as fertilizer. So you see, you pick up small instances and highlight them. It's also brought in to suggest its role as a life giver, right? So you have actually highlighted different examples. Tom had deep scars on his neck, but the story does not delve into that. Somebody, one of my former students, I think it was Gauri, asked me whether we need to write long, 1-page long answers. No, if they have said 40 words, maximum you go to 50, but do not exceed it because the papers in CBSE are quite long. You should not be in a case where you're writing too much and in the end you leave out some questions for paucity of time. So please do not do that. Stick to the word limit. They want you to kind of be able to answer it in the best economical manner as possible. Tom had deep scars on his neck, but the story does not get into that comment. The deep crimson stars. Now you see you're giving extra information, which will impress the examiner because it will show that you have read the story multiple times. On Tom's neck is evidence of his torture at the hands of Japanese authorities. This suggests the cruelty of war. Important point. The scars represent the broader issues of nationalism and racism that run throughout the story. Though the story does not delve into how the scars were created, the doctor's wife remembers having heard rumors about how brutally the Japanese treated their prisoners of war. Why did Hannah feel both fear and compassion while attending to the wounded American soldier? It came from harboring an enemy because they were giving shelter to an enemy, which is a crime punishable during when Japan and America were at war with each other. Yet her compassion as a human being and as a doctor's wife, these two identities are important. First, as a human being. Number two, as a doctor's wife, compelled her to help the soldier. Her struggle reflects the moral tension because the servants don't approve of what they are doing between national loyalty and universal humanity. This is how you write a brilliant, proper, within the word limit answer. What role does the general play in revealing the moral decay of authority during war? The general exposes the moral emptiness of power. Though patriotic in words, he's selfish and detached in action. His willingness to let assassins kill a helpless man reflects authority's corruption and indifference during wartime. How do the servants' actions mirror? This is again an important question. See, you will get questions related to the doctor's couple's character and what they did. You may get a googly question on the servants and the general, but servants quite likely. The servants' departure from Sadav's house shows how ordinary people fear moral responsibility. Their behavior mirrors, means it's a reflection of the society's blind conformity that we are patriotic, we will not help, we will not behave like human beings, where loyalty to the nation outweighs compassion and fear replaces individual ethical judgment. We don't think of someone else as a human being. We think of him or her on the basis of their nationality, religion, caste, creed, whatever, right? Why did Sadav risk his reputation? Now, this kind of a question can also be asked as an opinion question, like I did the first one. Okay. Why did Sadav risk his reputation to save the enemy soldier? Because his medical ethics and human conscience outweighed the patriotic duty. He viewed the wounded soldier first as a patient and then only as a American soldier, and definitely not as an enemy at that point in time. His act of saving a life symbolizes moral integrity as a doctor rising above wartime hatred. In what way does the sea serve? See, I tried to cover the entire story in the form of this 2-mark question, so that even if you get it as a 3-mark question, you should be able to kind of write a little more and ensure that you write a good meaty. This is the heart, the soul of the answers. In what way does the sea serve? Important question. Recurring symbol throughout the story. It symbolizes both danger. It also symbolizes redemption. Redemption means some kind of a moral improvement. It brings the wounded soldier to Sadao's doorstep, creating his moral conflict, and later becomes the means of the soldier's escape, offering resolution and cleansing of that guilt. Now let's look at some 3-mark questions which you have to write in 100 words. It is obvious that Sadao and Hannah resent their time in America, what happened in the past, because of the racial prejudice they were subjected to. How does prejudice affect a person? Now, this again is an opinion-based question based on the information provided in the story. Racial prejudice affects a person's mind and soul adversely by instilling deep-seated. If you use these kind of words, your marks will only go up. Feelings of resentment and bitterness, leaving behind a lasting emotional and psychological impact. The fact that even after returning from America, they are angry about the manner in which he has not forgotten how certain people treated, like Sadao's landlady treated him, shows the learned doctor has been unable to put it behind him. He has been unable to forget him. In fact, he wonders why he could not kill him despite all the bitterness in his heart. Kill him means the American soldier. But Sadao, searching the spot of black in the twilight sea that night, had his reward. What was that reward? The reward was the escape of the enemy. The ailing general forgets to keep his promise and does not send across the assassins in the night. This gives Dr. Sadao an opportunity to reconsider his decision. He gives the soldier a board. So this is more of a recall and a descriptive kind of an answer, right? So I've tried to give you different kinds of questions. Food, bottle, water. So this is attention to detail. If you write all these details, it will show that you have read the story multiple times. You are careful about detail. Instructs him to sail across to a deserted island. He asks him to wait for a Korean vessel. So he's given him precise direction, and you would be good to kind of explain all this in detail to include it in your answers. Later, Sadao searches a spot of black in the twilight sea that night to see if the man was still there. The absence of light is an indication that the American soldier had gone. Let's come to 4-mark questions. Okay. Discuss how Pearl Esberg's The Enemy explores the tension between personal conscience and national loyalty. So if you get the same question for 4 marks, and you have to write up to 150 words. The Enemy powerfully explores the clash between moral duty and patriotic loyalty. Dr. Sadao, as a Japanese surgeon, is torn between his responsibility to his country and his conscience as a doctor. Saving an American prisoner during war risks his honor, safety, and career. Yet, Sadao's decision to operate on him shows that humanity transcends man-made boundaries. Important phrase. His internal conflict represents the eternal human struggle between what society expects, the Japanese society, and who are representing Japanese society in the story? The servants. And what the heart dictates, what he and his wife decide. Through Sadao, Pearl Esberg suggests that true courage lies not in blind obedience to authority or to national duty or patriotism, but in compassion and moral clarity, even when the world will call it a betrayal, that he's being a good human being first. Examine how Hannah's character development contributes to the story's moral code. Hannah's transformation drives the emotional depth of the enemy, the story. You should always put it in single quotes. Initially hesitant and fearful of helping an enemy soldier, she represents the common person torn between fear and empathy. However, her compassion grows as she assists Dr. Sadao in surgery and personally nurses the American soldier. Her humanity triumphs over societal conditioning. She has been conditioned in a particular way, but her humanity is much more of a strong emotion. Through Hannah, Buck portrays that moral strength often arises from love, not defiance. She becomes the story's conscience, embodying the quiet heroism of empathy. Her evolution from apprehension to moral clarity emphasizes that kindness, even in wartime, is the highest form of courage. Okay. Now I have created a question which will kind of compare 2 stories in Vistas, the Tiger King with the Enemy. Compare Sadao's internal struggle with the moral turmoil of the king in the Tiger King. Okay. Both Sadao and the Tiger King face conflicts born out of power and ego, but they respond in very contrasting ways. He believes in killing. Who? The Tiger King. This doctor believes in saving. The Tiger King's moral blindness stems from arrogance. Dr. Sadao is not arrogant. He tries to defy fate for selfish survival using violence and cruelty by killing all the tigers. In contrast, Dr. Sadav's struggle arises from compassion. He risks his life to save another, guided by conscience rather than pride. The Tiger King's choices end in ironic death. Sadav's in inner peace. Both stories highlight how human beings respond to fear through domination or through empathy. Ultimately, Sadav's moral victory contrasts sharply with the king's downfall, showing that humility and compassion bring redemption where arrogance invites destruction. So you may get questions which will kind of compare and contrast two stories, which is why I have put two questions like this. The second one you need to compare with the memories of childhood, talking about resistance. Now this is even more, more close. You realize how these kind of comparisons can be made. They share a common theme of defying deep-rooted prejudice. In The Enemy, Sadav rejects his country's wartime hatred to save an American, asserting individual conscience over collective nationalism. In Memories of Childhood, Zitkala Sa and Bama resist racial and caste-based oppression through awareness, education, in the case of Bama in particular, and personal courage. Even Zitkala Sa, but much more Bama. Both stories challenge systems that restrict compassion and equality. While Sadav's rebellion is quiet and moral, the women's defiance in both the stories is social and very vocal. Together, they illustrate that true strength lies in questioning prejudice and choosing humanity over conformity. Each act of resistance, whether it is surgical compassion or social protest, becomes an affirmation of dignity and justice. Okay, so this is how you write your 150, 120 to 150 mark answers for 4 marks. So I've given you 1 mark MCQs, 2 mark questions, 3 mark questions, and 4 mark questions. I don't think anyone will do any chapter more comprehensively than this. So if you have got a hang of how to frame your answers in a formal tone, using keywords and details from the story, using good phrases which kind of make people, the examiner, understand that you have actually understood the story very well. For example, it's a word like defiance. It immediately captures the essence of the Memories of Childhood story. So that is what you need to do. So thank you very much for watching. Share this video, subscribe to the channel, and I do hope you do very well in your examinations. Most of the videos have been done, test paper videos for each individual chapter, and they are all put in the same place. Okay, tata, bye bye. Thank you very much. Namaskar.